But in this specific episode, this dialogue and conversation between Viserys and Alicent is super important for the future of this series, because this is where I believe he almost convinces Alicent in a way that what Otto wants is likely what's best for the realm, and she was full team Rhaenyra. Alicent was Rhaenyra's best friend, and she was totally cool with it. Even after this, she has a discussion with her dad, and she's still on the fence about it so much. But I think this is where maybe it really entered her mind that maybe Viserys is reconsidering his position on certain decisions he's made. And I'll just say that for now, and I'll let you go through the dialogue.
I picked her to protect the realm from Daemon. She was my only child, the realm's delight. I named her out of love because I no longer believed. Believed what, my love? Viserys says, many in my line have been dragon riders. Very few among us have been dreamers. What is the power of a dragon? The hour is too late, husband. Viserys, when Rhaenyra was a child, I saw it in a dream. As vivid as these flames, I saw it. A male babe born to me, wearing the conqueror's crown. And I so wanted it to be true, to be a dreamer myself. I saw that vision again, night after night, but it never came again. I poured all my thought and will into it, and my obsession killed Rhaenyra's mother. I thought Rhaenyra was my way out of my abyss of grief and regret, and naming her heir would begin to set things right. I never imagined I would remarry, that I would have a son. What if I was wrong?
Because I told you we were going to talk about this when I mentioned it when you were going through the summary. With Viserys telling Rhaenyra she's not going to be supplanted, she's going to remain heir, and she will be the ruling queen when he dies. I think if he would have he had everyone in the realm there celebrating Aegon's second name day. If he would have just reaffirmed that with the entire kingdom, it could have saved so much of what is to come in sort of the back and forth and deciding what's best for the realm. If he would have just taken center stage and been like, yo, we're really excited to hear that my firstborn son is turning 2. We're really happy to expand the family, but I'm just reiterating that does not change things going forward. You guys all swore fealty to Rhaenyra. She is going to remain my heir, and she will be the ruling queen when I die. If he had just reaffirmed that with the entire realm that was there celebrating Aegon's second name day, it would have saved a bunch of headaches and a bunch of problems going forward. Because at that point in time, they were all there expecting him to say, oh, we're going to name Aegon heir. Aegon's going to be the heir. But instead of taking one side or the other, what he did and just kind of ignored it and just assumed that everyone knew his wishes, if he would have just reaffirmed and said to the entire realm, no, this is still the plan. I know I have a son here. That changes nothing, though. My daughter is still going to be the ruling queen when I die. It would have saved everything. What do you think?
I don't think it would have exactly saved everything. I think you still would have had people in the realm that probably brought it to question, because you're definitely kind of making up your own rules here. I think some people in the realm would have still questioned it, but it would have made it a lot clearer, so you wouldn't have any of this back and forth going forward. You would be, especially with the core party here, like Alicent and that sort of thing. This goes into the fact of what I was saying is, this is my problem with him as king. This is the difference between him and Jaehaerys, which is why, Jaehaerys, for 60 years, they didn't have any problems, because it's almost like he tries to please people. Like he said today, he was, he feels like he always has someone he has to anger. It's not about pleasing people being king. I mean, then again, this day and age, we know, we have a society that votes on things. But if he would just speak his mind about things, but instead, this is where alcohol plays a role. Instead, he buries his thoughts deep down because he doesn't feel like making someone angry, and then goes and starts reminiscing on dreams, and people believe what they want from that, which goes into what we were saying in episode 1. Daemon straight up tells him, you're weak. Like, a part of being a strong king isn't just being physically strong. You have to be strong with the people influencing you around you. And it seems like he couldn't almost handle himself. He could have simply said, I appreciate your interest and this is different, but Rhaenyra will not be supplanted. And I'm going to make this clear. And that's all he had to say. But because you're doing a lot of this back and forth, damage control the next day, well, unfortunately, because he can't make things clear, you have a lot of back and forth, and unfortunately, episodes to come that we can't talk about. That's part of the reason why, because he never makes anything clear. And I think it goes into exactly what Daemon says. He's weak, and that's his biggest problem. That's my biggest problem with him being king. And unfortunately, sometimes a weak king doesn't necessarily mean you're what's best in interest for the realm. You can have a spot on the council, but you might not be the best to actually rule. So that's just my thoughts on it.
To be fair to Viserys, I mean, this doesn't really give away anything, but later on in the episodes, they refer to him as Viserys the Peaceful, because he did live the entirety of his reign so far without any sort of problems. That is right. True. You know what I mean? Yeah. The biggest problem that they had was the issue in the stepstones, and they handled it. So even though you consider him weak, he was really good at the pleasing of everyone to keep the realm intact and in order. Yes, he wasn't great at showing force most of the time or getting people to fear him. That wasn't really his MO, so to speak. He was just very adept at he maneuvered the political side of ruling very well, in my opinion. He did his best to please everyone where he could. Because I want to say I don't know if it was fear or he just refused to do it, but he never really seemed to take a strong stance on a lot of things until he was absolutely forced to. Until he was brought forward, and going into what we're going to talk about next week. There's one line, and I'll say it now because it's fine, but Viserys and Daemon talk, and Daemon says, who cares what people think? You are the dragon. Your word is truth and law. He's trying to get Viserys to realize, dude, just understand the power you have, man. And it just seems that Viserys just sees himself as above petty things as a brute force and shows of strength. And then, but sometimes that's the way to get people to respect you in a way. And so I'm going to do this, and I don't care what you think about it. And if you've got a problem, we'll do something about it. And that's kind of Daemon's mentality. That's how Daemon views things. But Viserys, it's very clear he doesn't. He's very much, but he sits the fence on a lot of issues. He didn't want to fight in the Stepstones, even though it was bad for the kingdom because they were ruining trade routes and they were really harming House Velaryon because that was their best trade route. And it took him till Alicent said, well, is the crab feeder surviving good for the realm, or is it better if he's destroyed? He has to be shown the real negative side of stuff before he finally makes a decision. He's very indecisive. That's what I'll say about King Viserys, is he seems indecisive until he's pinned into a corner and needs to make a choice. And at that point, he is pretty good about being consistent, as we're going to see in the coming episodes of the decisions he makes and how he stands on those. But for the most part, when it comes to smaller little things, it just seems that he's very passive.